really awesome conversation about what frustrates you the most about having a disability. And the board didn't know it at that point, but that was the time that we figured out the actual goals that SUFU needed to be working on. And the 4 things that the board had come up with at that time were freedom of choice, legislative restrictions, so kind of like when legislators or somebody thinks it's a good idea to make a law to keep people safer, it actually ends up restricting their lives. Like bullying and being exploited, and then also still facing discrimination. So those are the 4 areas that really frustrated the folks living in Maine. We also had to redo how we talk about money in our organization. We had a really, the way that we used to do things was not, the board members were not necessarily in the loop or in control of the money, and we did a big switch over to make that happen. Our treasurer signs all of our checks, and actually we've moved to at least every other month when we have our chair and our treasurer together, they sign the checks, and David doesn't sign them. He only signs them with our treasurer on the off month. We changed how we talk about our financials, so we talk about money in, money out, because that's what everyone could understand. And then we talk about cookie jars a lot, where we put money in this cookie jar and that cookie jar. And one of the biggest changes was that we needed to, as the executive director and the program director for SUFU, as the staff that work for the board, we needed to figure out and change how we talked about things to make it make sense for the board members, instead of expecting the board members to learn complicated financial and accounting language. So that was a big change with how we really looked at our money. We also worked out an agreement with KeyBank to have our chapters be able to have their own bank account, and as a membership benefit of being a chapter with SUFU. And they can also apply for chapter mini grants to do small projects. For example, one group applied recently for notebooks, calendar books, so that they can keep track of SUFU events. One group applied for money to do a community barbecue at a local beach. So any project goes, and the chapter rep committee actually approves those.
Hey,
and then we also have a lot.
Can you slow down a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, I can. Sorry. I talk really fast, so that's good feedback. I'm sorry. I'll try to slow down. We also have a lot of individual membership benefits, which was part of giving the organization back to the members. Members needed to know that the organization invests in them. So we have a SUFU birthday club. So when they become a member, John McGovern, who's our program associate, he sends everybody out a birthday card during the month of their birthday, if they choose to give us their birthday. We also do, we have our membership only part of our website. There's lots of different benefits. Right now we're doing a slogan contest for SUFU, and that's open to members that are current on their membership to submit a slogan that will be selected. And the goal is to get the slogan printed on T-shirts for our conference in September. And so that's the benefit of being a member of SUFU. These are just some pictures from our second leadership development program. And because it was such a success the first round, we did it again to allow for some additional folks to learn some great leadership skills. These guys here, they solved there was some problem solving going on, and it was solved in like under a minute, which was quicker than other boards had ever solved this problem before, so that was pretty cool. Here again, they did the tower activity that the first class had done. And it was all about working together, communication, and problem solving by identifying the problem, figuring out options, and really talking about the actions and reactions to any decisions that they might make, which is important to think about, because if folks make a decision about something that maybe other people might be upset or maybe they won't agree, it's important to know about that and talk about it. And let's see. Okay, this is a photo of one of our roundups. So we used to do this thing called Advocacy Day, where we would have one day, well, we'd have a series of days that people could choose to State House in Maine during the legislative season. And essentially they would get a tour and a really small program talking about how a bill becomes a law. But it wasn't really giving us the success that we needed or wanted to get people involved in legislative advocacy. And so we partnered with the Center for Community Inclusion, the same place that Sandra works for, but one of her coworkers, Janet May, actually worked with us to come up with a new presentation that got folks to be interested on a grassroots level, and starting with their city councilors, their local school boards, their local state legislators, and building up so that folks would learn about it and learn why being involved legislatively matters and how it actually matters to them. And we've actually seen some success where chapters that had never before invited people as speakers to come and talk with them, they're now actually in the process of reaching out and doing that. So that's, I think, success from changing the way that we did things. This is another photo of one of our roundups. Our sports chapter decided to offer a roundup, and we held it at the Nordic Heritage Ski Center in Presque Isle. And folks were able to go biking and hiking in the afternoon after we had a nutritionist talking in the morning. Some people rode an adaptive bike, and they had never ridden a bike in their life. And that was pretty exciting to be able to have SUFU members doing that. I'm just going to jump back for a minute to our sports chapter. Our sports chapter is another new way that we're working on meeting our goals by providing community opportunities to people. So this is Chris, and he rode a bike for the first time. He's one of our board members, and he's using a hand pedaling bike. And he was going so fast on this event that Lori, our advisor, was a little bit scared that he was going so fast, but he was having a great time. And that's Abbott. You'll see him there. And they also did a bowling event at Pineland Farms. They were going to go skiing, but they had no snow, so that didn't quite work out. But by offering our sports chapter, one of our specialty chapters, the goal of it is to get people involved in their community through sports programs that anybody in the community would play. And so they work with members to identify what they're interested in, and then Lori finds connections for them through maybe the local, let's say they want to play basketball, so she'll connect them with an adult basketball league. Or maybe their goal is to go skiing, so she'll connect them with a ski club. So that's been a pretty interesting project. I apologize about these slides. Okay, there we are. One of the other things that we came to recognize was that SUFU had been running around in too many directions, but we were still stuck on the farm. So the best way that I can describe this is that if SUFU were a farm and we were like our own silo, and we had connections to other parts of the farm, we weren't really branching out down into the community. And we had folks on a lot of different committees and councils and boards, but they weren't necessarily being part of the conversation at those places. And so we took a big step back and we started working on figuring out whether or not the board thought it was a place that people should be. So we used our problem solving, and they decided if it fit with what our goals were and the projects that we wanted to be approaching, and if it fit with our mission. And we also have started finding new partners outside of our traditional system. And going back to that, it's the board's freedom of choice. We've gotten some reactions about that from some of our traditional partners, and the board worked through the whole problem solving and decided that they were okay with those reactions. So it's just part of having freedom of choice. And I guess this is my last slide. So we're still growing as an organization, and our next step is to work with, maybe it's not my last, there we go. Our next step is to work with our chapters on achieving the goals we've set out to do in our strategic plan and how we're going to go about doing that. So we just had a chapter rep committee meeting, and we talked a little bit about that. And we have an advisor meeting coming up next week where we're going to talk more about it too. So we're pretty excited to be where we're at and actually have the strategic plan all written down on paper so that we can begin sharing it with our members so that they can really see what we've accomplished. So that's pretty much how we sort of got to where we are today and did our board development stuff. So are there questions?
I have a question for SUFU.
Sure.
This is Tammy from Plainfield, by the way. The strategic plan that you speak of, is it something that Team New Hampshire could utilize and review in order to help our organization become a better organization and better chapters, local chapters become better local chapters?
Well, yes and no. We can share, I just pulled up, this is the document, this is our strategic plan and the pieces that go into it. It's just like any other strategic plan with a mission statement, a vision statement, our philosophical statement, and our goals. The difference is that the process that we used to get here, we did a little bit at a time, and our board didn't feel like work. It felt like a discussion at a board meeting where they would make a decision, and then that little piece of it would be held. And then the next meeting we'd have another discussion. So to answer that best, to do the process similar to the way SUFU did it, if you were to build into your board meeting a small piece every meeting, and just take small steps, you could accomplish it. Or you could, do a lot of groups do a 2-day retreat and do this stuff. So we just approached it a little bit differently. Did that answer your question, Tammy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey, Monique,
and I can share this if folks. Yep.
I like what you said a lot. This is Topper speaking. I just want to say, Tammy, it's kind of like No, they came up with some good ideas, but and what's really important is for New Hampshire to see if it's helpful to learn how Maine came up with their ideas so New Hampshire can come up with their own ideas. Is that kind of what you were saying, Monique?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is John Fenley. Sorry. So we're actually in the midst of our own kind of visioning process and revamping our bylaws and working on similar, making similar progress to achieve what you achieved. And got to say, I love some of the ideas you gave us today at the session. It was great.
Yeah. Great.
So, thank you, Monique, for doing the presentation.